is up, guys? It's Zito here. So today we're looking at one of the most anticipated releases for late 2025, the ATK F1 V2 Extreme. Now, the original V1 took the world by storm in 2024, and many people, including myself, agreed it was the undisputed budget king of the year. But does the V2 live up to the hype? Quick disclaimer, I bought this mouse with my own money. There is absolutely no bias here, just my raw, honest thoughts on the F1 V2 Extreme in this pink colorway. Let's talk about the upgrade. The biggest leaps from the V2 are the internal components and the coding. Now, ATK has paired the PAW3950 Ultra sensor with the Nordic 54H20 MCU. In my testing, the 8K polling rate feels significantly more stable than the V1, and latency has been pushed to the absolute minimum. However, there's a trade-off. To apply the new nano coating, the total weight increased by about 3 to 5 grams, bringing it to the 38 to 40 grams. To keep it under 40 grams, ATK actually reduced the battery size to 200 mAh on this extreme version, down from 250 mAh on the V1. We'll talk about why that actually doesn't matter later. Now, the build quality on my unit is solid, no creaking, no squeaking, or flex. It feels incredibly dense, but honestly, I kind of miss that hollow, airy feeling of the V1. This V2 feels a bit too full for my taste, even though the grip is great. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the coding. It's more of like a love or hate relationship I have with this coding. I live in a humid, rainy climate. The coating is grippy, but when my hands are dry, it feels slippery. I actually have to warm up my hands to get that moisture for the grip to kick in. Here is the weird part. Compared to the heat scan Hyperlight, which stays ice cold even when I sweat, the ATK F1 V2 Extreme gets warm. It retains heat. My hands run warmer than average, and I hate that the mouse absorbs that heat during long sessions. It's uncomfortable for me, and I actually had to use grip tape, which I usually despise, just to mitigate that heat. If you like a warmer touch, you love this one, and if you want a cold touch, stick to the head scan. Next one, regarding balance, ATK did a great job. No front or back heavy. Flicks feels natural. However, my hand somehow notices that 4 gram weight increase. It's kinda strange compared to the V1 or the Corsair Saber V2 Pro, which is 35 to 36 grams. That tiny 4 gram difference feels surprisingly obvious. It shouldn't be, but it is. This is important. The clicks. Immediately out of the box, the main clicks felt stiff, tactile, and loud. If you have small hands like me, you can't reach the front of the buttons where the actuation is lighter. I have to press near the middle, and it is heavy. In competitive games like Valorant or the finals, the stiffness actually messed up my timing. Even the side buttons are too heavy. When I press them, the force required actually shakes my end to the right. I really dislike how they tune these switches. I prefer the lighter, slightly mushy clicks of the V1. On the flip side, the scroll wheels is fantastic. Light, smooth, quiet, and a solid middle click. It's almost as good as the Corsair Saber V2 Pro's wheel, which let's be honest, is the only good thing about this corset mouse, alongside its weight and shape. Here is some groundbreaking news. I did some deep dive testing with the 3950 Ultra and the Nordic 54H20, and I found out the real DPI on this mouse is higher than the set DPI. This makes sense because the sensor position is quite low. Think of your arm movement like a compass. Your elbow is the anchor, and a lower sensor creates a smaller arc radius compared to a high sensor like on the hit scan hyperlight. So to compensate, the F1 V2 pushes higher real DPI to make DM feel stable. About my test, I test over a measured 30 centimeters distance at 1600 DPI, and the F1 V2 Extreme actually tracked over 1600, while on the hit scan, it tracked under 1600. It makes the F1 feels a bit faster, even if the sensor is physically lower. But like I said, if you have wrist movement or arm movement, obviously the hit scan hyperlight is gonna move faster based on the fact that the sensor is higher. This is the best feature on this mouse, and I have to say, ATK did a great job. I need to give ATK a massive round of applause here. They solved the small battery anxiety in a really genius way. Fast charging. Since they use a smaller 200 mAh battery for weight reduction and 8K polling its power, maybe 8 hours max, this was risky. But listen to this. I plugged this mouse in at 0%. I walked to the fridge, grabbed the water, washed my face. Maybe 10 to 12 minutes passed. I came back and it was 100% charged. And at another time, at 35%, I plugged it in, played one song around 7 minutes and half, 30 seconds. Before the song ended, it was fully charged. As a collector, this is mind-blowing. It changes the game. And honestly, I cannot explain how much many companies out there need this feature. We need the fast charging under 20 minutes. This is huge, insane. For the cable and software, they market the dual 8K wireless and wired, but here's the joke. The included cable is garbage. It is stiff, rough, and basically unusable for gaming. I can't believe they wasted the wired 8K potential with a cable this bad. Look at this one. Now you look at the Orbital Pathfinder cable. Let's, wait a minute. Now we're gonna have a comparison when we hold it a bit longer, okay? 1, 2, 3. You see this? This is absurd. To the hit scan, we're gonna do all three at the same time. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, now imagine the stiffness longer. This is garbage. And also next, the ATK Hub software, however, is excellent in my opinion. Only one flaw. Now, the auto profile switching between desktop and game modes works flawlessly for polling rate and DPI and internal setting. I feel like it worked just like how I wanted an app to work. Like, it's insane. But my only wish, let us rename the profile so I don't have to remember what profile 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 is. I don't have a robot memory, and that kind of like a naming profile is crazy. So in conclusion, the ATK F1 V2 Extreme is a bit of a roller coaster. It helped me realize I prefer lighter, hollow mice and colder coating. However, if you can snag this for under $100 or find those on AliExpress deals for under $90, to me it is an absolute steal. It is still a top tier pro level mouse, even if I personally enjoy the V1 slightly more. Final score for this mouse, 8/10. I think it still has some room for improvement, maybe wait for the V3, I don't know, but that's it for me. And Zito's out. Also, remember to stay hydrated, guys. And that's it. Bye-bye.